You go around the world. There were people that were found that thought they were Muslims. There's organizations that look for the 10 lost tribes. And they actually found a tribe that was living like Muslims. However, every Friday afternoon they had the minhag to light candles and cover it with like a tub. And when they researched, they found out that they were actually descendants, their ancestors were Jews that had to hide their identity as Jews, and every Friday afternoon they used to light Shabbat candles under a tub, under a big bowl, because they couldn't practice Judaism. Am Yisrael has sacrificed so much for Shabbat, but this just the mitzvah of lighting Shabbat candles. But unfortunately, in some homes these days, I don't understand it. It's not being done. There's a Rav in Eretz Yisrael, I forgot his name. He is a very, very successful Rav. Young man. He gives shiurim. He has hundreds of people come to the shiurim. Very well known. I forgot his name. But he's very, very successful. In one of his lectures, he gave a drasha. Here's what he says. There was a man by the name of Zalman Aran. Zalman Aran was the Ministry of Education during Ben Gurion's time in Eretz Yisrael. He was basically the right-hand man of Ben Gurion when it came to education. He made new educational laws in Eretz Yisrael. There was a lot of things that he changed. Right? It was the beginning of the formation of Israel. Right? Zalman was married. His wife was traditional. She was a traditional Jew. Every Friday afternoon, she lit the Shabbat candles. If there was nothing else, she lit the Shabbat candles. And when she lit the Shabbat candles, this tradition has been passed down from mother to daughter, mother to daughter. What do you do when you light the Shabbat candles? What's the first thing you do when you light the Shabbat candles? You pray. It's the greatest. You say the bracha, but after you've done the mitzvah of Shabbat candles, you daven. You pray. That's what all women do. So she used to pray. What would she pray for? She would pray for her children. She would ask Hashem, now you have to understand, Ben Gurion made history. Okay? He really made history. He for Israeli Jews, for Jews everywhere, especially at that time, Ben Gurion was, So people wanted their children to be like Ben Gurion. To have his leadership qualities. So she used to daven at the Shabbat candles for Hashem to give her children that will become leaders like Ben Gurion. That's what she would pray for. One time, Ben Gurion decided to visit the Chazon Ish, the Gadol Ador of the generation, the greatest Talmid Chacham at that time, the Chazon Ish. So they got an appointment to meet. This is Ben Gurion and the Chazon Ish. They meet. They discuss things about Judaism, about Israel, the direction Israel is going to. The Chazon Ish always had a lot to say about it. After the meeting ends, Ben Gurion discusses his meeting when they're talking again with Zalman Aran, the Ministry of Education. Because obviously the Chazon Ish had a lot to say about Jewish education in Eretz Yisrael. And this is what he says to Zalman. He says, when I sat with the Chazon Ish, his face gave off this aura of light. I felt like I really am not talking to a human being. I felt like I'm talking to an angel. It was an unbelievable experience. For the leader of Israel to say such a thing, it was a big deal. Zalman's wife hears this. Comes next Friday night and she starts to think, as she's about to start her routine or tefillah, she says, hold on a second. Why would I pray for my children to be like Ben Gurion when there is someone that even Ben Gurion looks up to? Let me go to the source. and she starts to pray and cry to Hashem, Hashem, give me children like the Chazon Ish. I want greats. She totally changes her tefillah. This Rav in Eretz Yisrael says, I'm her great-grandchild. No tefillah ever goes unanswered, especially at the lighting of Shabbat candles. It didn't happen to her children, it didn't happen to her grandchildren. Her great-grandchild is somebody in Eretz Yisrael that's famous. He has shiurim. Hundreds of people go to a young guy. And what does he say? He said it's passed down from generation to what? That the zechut that he has, the merit that he has to become so great was because her great-grandmother used to pray at the Shabbat candles, give me children like the Chazon Ish. Do not take these mitzvot for granted. Do not take our prayers for granted. Sometimes tefillot get answered right away. Sometimes tefillot get answered a week later. Sometimes tefillot get answered 2, 3, 4, 5 generations later. But there is not a single tefillah, a single prayer that goes unanswered. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is no chas v'shalom. He's not deaf. He doesn't. There's no. Every tefillah reaches HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You could say the same tefillah 1 billion times. Kudos, say it. If you know how to pray correctly, you could daven every day for the same exact thing. Because if you don't get it, if your children don't get it, that tefillah will have the strength for at its time to really have an effect on your generation. Especially to our wives and our mothers during the Shabbat candles. It is such an auspicious time. When a woman lights the Shabbat candles, Chachamim tell us she has all of the gates of heaven open for her. She could ask for anything. It is such a time for tefillah. Husbands should beg their wives, pay their wives, buy gifts for their wives, just so that they'll literally stand there for an hour and pray. Because that's the time to pray. Lives have changed. I know lives have changed just because of Shabbat candles. It's a great zechut. It's a great merit. And it's a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Rabbeinu Bechaye says, when a person brings or, brings light into their home, lichvot Shabbat, for the kavod of Shabbat, in the honor of Shabbat, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will mezakeh that person, will give that person merit, so that his children should become the ore of the world, the light of the nation, because of the kavod of Shabbat. Don't take the mitzvot lightly. Don't take our tefillot lightly. Pray with all of your heart. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen. You go.